Okay,
think
Alyssa.
Well, good morning.
good
Good
morning.
afternoon. I love it. I love it so much. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us here today on the feed, which is the Faces of Epilepsy Everyday. So proud of all of us. Big, huge shout out to Mike Hall, our producer, who's there in the background. This is such a labor of love. And, you know, we come together as volunteers. I myself, Lisa Griggs, and I have a son, Judah, that was an epileptic. I was a caretaker for him until he passed away of SUDEP, which I had no idea what that was. And now we are coming together with this beautiful community. This is my co-host, Alyssa, and I'm so excited that she's here today. We have a lot to unpack today, girl.
I'm ready. I am so ready.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because you know what? You were diagnosed with epilepsy later in life.
Yeah.
And so you drove and had regular jobs and interactions and this, that, the other. And so for those of that are just listening into the podcast for the first time and do not even know what epilepsy is, why don't we just start there?
Yeah.
Because you were someone that was diagnosed with epilepsy later, you know, in life. Did you know what epilepsy was until you got diagnosed?
I kind of knew of it, but I didn't know anyone who had epilepsy. I knew that it caused reoccurring seizures. I knew that there were certain precautions that you needed to take, or like if somebody was having a seizure, I knew how to handle them because I also I guess it shouldn't come super easily to know what you should do for a seizure, but to me, it's like, okay, definitely not putting something in your mouth, definitely not holding them hostage or holding them down because there are a bunch of different types of seizures. Just making sure that they don't hit their head. I feel like sometimes a lot of people overthink what to do when somebody has a seizure, when in reality, it's not as scary or hard as people think it might be. So, yeah, I kinda knew what epilepsy was, I just didn't know anybody who had it.
So had you ever seen anybody have a seizure?
Online, I definitely have probably seen, like, when I was in high school or, just scrolling through TikTok or whatever, I've definitely seen them, but I haven't had them myself until I was diagnosed, or the type, I guess, because there are a whole bunch of different types of seizures, that's for sure.
Yeah. How did that hit you? How did you respond to that or react to that, when you were told that you had epilepsy?
I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I accepted it, but I was crying, to be honest,
Mm,
because I went my whole life being able to
mm,
drive, like you said, being able
mhm,
to kind of live my life without taking medication that could have potential effects on you, and
mhm.
especially, when I did take Keppra, because they put me on Keppra for the first time,
Yeah.
because that's the one
Mhm,
that they usually
mhm,
put everybody on, because it's
yeah,
the one
mhm,
that is, mostly, I guess, mostly helps individuals that have
mhm,
epilepsy.
mhm,
Um, I ended up getting Keppra Rage, and for those of you who don't know what Keppra Rage is, you just are super angry and will honestly just have mental breakdowns.
mhm,
It's different
mhm,
for everybody, but for me, I had mental breakdowns. I couldn't stop crying. I was angry all the time. And
mhm,
if you guys didn't know me before, like I was the happiest, most go lucky,
mhm,
giggliest person.
mhm,
And then after they put me on Keppra, like, it literally hit me like this, and I was a
mhm,
completely different person, but I had to accept that my life wasn't going to be the same, and
mhm,
it was definitely a hard road, and I'm still kind of figuring it out because it was, like, 3.5, 4 years ago now,
mhm.
and it hasn't gotten easier for me, I won't lie. And I think that's the biggest thing, and going from driving to not being able to drive, feeling guilty for asking somebody for a ride, having to Uber places, having to, deal with the fact that this this could be forever, right?
Yeah.
So I just had to kinda deal with that.
Yeah, I think it is a big hit. I remember when my son Judah was diagnosed with epilepsy and the doctors told him he had a seizure. We went, obviously, medicine is very reactive. We went to the hospital. Then they sent him to a specialist, a neurologist for his tests. And then that's when they diagnosed him right away. I mean, even after his first seizure, they diagnosed him
Yeah,
with epilepsy, juvenile epilepsy. And I remember when they called him after the tests on the phone, and they said that he was going to be diagnosed with juvenile epilepsy. And it hit him very hard. And he
I just
was
might have.
just, yeah, just crying and bawling his eyes out. And just, it was a really, really big hit for him. So I'm sure that, the community can relate to that for the ones that either are caretakers of epileptics or epileptics themselves the first time that they got diagnosed. So you were how old when you got diagnosed?
If I remember correctly, because again, with epilepsy, your memory can go in and out with certain things, random things as well,
Mhm,
but I
mhm,
think I was like 21, 22 when I got
mhm.
diagnosed, so it wasn't necessarily juvenile, um, but it just came on so randomly. So I
Yeah.
was like, what?"
So how
So,
many years have you been living with epilepsy now?
like, 3.5, 4 years.
3.5, 4 years. So for people that don't understand epilepsy,
Mhm,
now that you have it,
yeah.
right? And then you've been on this journey for that many years, how would you explain to people what it is and what it isn't?
So I would say that epilepsy is a neurological condition,
Mhm,
and it causes reoccurring seizures, but the seizures are um, very different in a lot of people, and it isn't a mental illness for sure.
mhm,
It isn't contagious because a lot of people get scared. They'll be like, "Oh, they're having a seizure," and then they freak themselves out. It's not
mhm.
contagious.
Yeah.
It also doesn't limit somebody's worth or intelligence, um, depending on, I guess, again, the seizures, but definitely should not limit somebody's worth. You are absolutely beautiful. You are 100% seen. Even, like, if you have epilepsy,
Mhm,
it doesn't make you less than, and I need you guys to understand that. We are still here. We are still
mhm, mhm,
human beings.
mhm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions around epilepsy, what it is, what it isn't. There's still this huge stigma around epilepsy that we are so desperately trying to, push through. kind of get to the other side of that stigma
Yeah.
and, power through all the shame around epilepsy that has to do with all these misconceptions and just really people being uneducated, on what to do if someone has a seizure. I still think that is one of the biggest parts of education and awareness that needs to be brought to the forefront is that if somebody has a seizure, what do you do? And if you know what to do, you have confidence and you have power to have courage, to be a support to whoever is in the general public that may even be around you having a seizure, that you're able to be there to support them and not run away
Mhm.
from that. What do you think's been the biggest misconception that you've had to live with? If you had to name one, what do you think it is that's the biggest one with regard to epilepsy?
I would say a bunch of them come to mind, but my biggest one is that people can't live an independent life. I know you
Mhm,
and I have kinda talked about this, and somebody who has epilepsy shouldn't have to live alone,
mhm,
should always have somebody by them if they want to,
mhm,
but
mhm,
also they they can live an independent life if they want to.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
they
Love it.
obviously do have to take a little precaution, of course,
Mhm,
um, but I think the biggest misconception, yeah, the independence. You
mhm,
feel like you're
mhm.
not independent anymore sometimes, and other people could sometimes baby you
Yeah.
or yeah, and I want you guys to know
Mhm,
that if you have epilepsy, you can still be an independent
mhm,
person. If somebody has to be there with you, sometimes don't take that, um, I guess, too hard because
mhm, mhm,
it just is what it is. You can still do things independently. Sometimes if you
mhm,
can't drive, this is what I say, if you can't drive,
mhm,
"Oh, well, I'll be a passenger princess." Like, and you laugh at it, make it like a kind of a, lighter, and I'm not saying, uh, epilepsy, like, people should laugh at seizure or anything, no, like,
mhm,
I'm not saying that, but sometimes it's okay to
mhm.
kind of make, light of certain situations,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
yeah, I
Yeah.
would say that, and I would also say, a misconception, just one more, is that there's not one type of seizure, because a lot of
Right.
people, when they
Yeah.
think epilepsy and seizure, they think grand mal, they think
Mhm, mhm,
where they're kind of spitting out of their mouth on the
mhm,
floor, hitting
mhm,
their head, and seizing, not being able to communicate for a very long
mhm,
time, and
mhm.
epilepsy's n not all of that,
Yeah.
I have petite mals, which is the ones where you kinda, like, could stare off into space, or ones where you'll kind of get a weird tick in your mouth, or,
Mhm.
I get ones where I'll literally just keep going like this.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just a
Mhm,
motion of your face.
mhm,
So, yeah, I would say there's
mhm.
that misconception as well. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, like,
Mhm,
the biggest misconception as a parent, I'm
mhm.
gonna say it's definitely the whole setup. Like, it was
Mm,
just nothing I've ever heard of. And I'm not the only parent,
yeah.
and I'm not the only non-epileptic. Like, what I mean by that is there's a lot of epileptics that
Yeah,
do
I
not
see it.
know about SUDEP. And
Yeah,
I don't know, I just believe that it would change the way we look at epilepsy if we understood SUDEP,
yeah,
especially with the epileptics that are having the grand mals and that are having the tonic-clonic seizures, which for those of you listening in that don't understand what that is, it's the very severe seizures,
mhm,
lasting 30 seconds to a minute, sometimes up to 2 minutes. Oftentimes, vigorous shaking, biting of the tongue, very stiff,
that
very strong. Um, and it sometimes can even last up to 5 minutes, which is super dangerous. I mean, we're
yeah,
talking about you could go offline at that point and not come back. And so I think as a parent, the biggest misconception was the whole SUDEP and just not being aware of the possibility that you could actually die, of epilepsy. I think most people, because they don't see someone and go, oh, this person has a chronic illness because they're not in a wheelchair and they didn't lose a leg and they didn't lose an arm. And, you know, um, you can't, it's not obvious. It's not something that's obvious to
Yeah,
the natural eye. So I would say as a parent, it's definitely that. And I
agree.
can really only speak to that. I wish that I could have asked Judah these questions. Epilepsy was just something we lived with, and we never really talked about it.
Mhm.
It just, it wasn't something that was really discussed. And maybe that's because we didn't want to confront, the possibility that you could actually lose your life to this. And I think that is what motivates me so much in trying to bring awareness and advocacy
Mhm.
and kind of champion Faces of Epilepsy and the feed. And I know that we're only in the beginning stages of how God is going to use this platform in so many ways and to bring so much awareness and education. And I'm sure there will be so many beautiful things that will come of this, somehow. But I want to shift gears. I want to ask you, because obviously, was your work different when you didn't have epilepsy?
Right.
Like in the workplace. I know this is a big stigma around the workplace.
Mhm.
We've been posting in groups today on, should you even tell your employer you have epilepsy when you go to get a job? Is it something that you should disclose? Is it something you should hide? Um, did that change your ability to work where you worked? If you could work, um,
Yeah,
did that
great
change things for you?
great question, and before I answer that, I just wanna say that you are so strong, and you have the ability to do anything that you put your mind to. Losing your son was an extremely hard thing, and you are doing amazing and being an advocate for him. When I learned about SUDEP and when I went through my whole, education about epilepsy, I had to be okay, and I had to honestly tell myself, "This is a possibility," and I honestly had to be aware that it is a very, very dangerous thing, so I agree with you, and I hear you, Lisa, 100%. But I will say in the workplace, that's a great question. I actually had to quit one of my jobs that I loved so much
Yeah.
because I kept on having reoccurring seizures,
Mhm.
and I wasn't able to continue because the workplace that I was at was very hands-on, and it was the tumbling place with the little kids, and they saw me have a
Mm.
couple seizures, and
Wow.
I didn't want them to see that again
Yeah.
because it's scary for them. And then I actually later found out that they know how to handle seizures
So
because
yeah.
one of their friends has epilepsy.
Mhm.
And then I got to meet her, and it
Mhm.
was just the sweetest thing because we got to connect on that.
Mhm.
But I personally think that we should tell our bosses if we have epilepsy
Mhm. Mhm.
only because
Yeah.
they are aware. They
Mhm.
we can kind of talk to them, "Okay, if they can't come in one day, I might have to leave early one day." It's very important to have that communication with your boss
Mhm.
and your coworkers. I understand that sometimes it might be scary
Mhm.
to tell your boss or your coworkers that you have epilepsy because they might think about you differently,
Mhm. Mhm.
but
Mhm.
it actually brought me and my group together. It brought me and my coworkers
Mhm.
together. And I want to tell you guys that are out there who have epilepsy and are afraid to tell your workplace, I think that it's important that you do. It could be a
Mhm.
very scary experience for you because I don't wanna say you might lose your job, but if you
Mhm.
do, if they don't accept that you
Mhm.
do have epilepsy,
Mhm.
then that job wasn't meant for you, and I put your hands up and be like, "Okay, thank you, time to get a new job." But that's just for me personally.
Mhm.
What do you think about that? What do
Well,
you
I was gonna ask you about that, I'm wondering, and I don't know if Mike wants to,
think?
jump in on this, but, 'cause this is actually a question, but would that be discriminatory, if you weren't hired because you disclosed that you had epilepsy?
That's
Or have you ever been in a situation where you were asked to leave that job?
Mhm.
And is that a form of discrimination because you have epilepsy?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a form of discrimination, but if that being even that being said, you don't want to be in that workplace if they're gonna discriminate against you, and I
Anyway,
understand.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that, sometimes if you were to disclose that, you could be treated differently, seem
Mhm.
liable, or, like, again, you won't be hired, but I say think about it in a like I said, in a way where it's just like, if they wanna discriminate against you, that isn't meant for you,
Mhm.
and I 100% believe that some a job that you're meant for,
Mhm.
they'll accept you 100%.
Yeah, I totally absolutely agree with that as well. My son Judah had a job, working at Little Caesars Pizza.
Mhm.
No, not Little Seizures, Little Caesars Pizza. And it was his favorite. Like, he always wanted Little Caesar pizza. So he did get his first and only job that he had at Little Caesars Pizza. And they knew he had epilepsy. And there were times where he would have seizures. And oh my gosh, he
On
would
the
still
job?
power through and go to work. I don't know how he did it, but he would. Some days, and other days he was just completely wiped out. So with regard to your job, at the with the children, um, did it ever make you feel bad, or were you okay with it? Because I know you kind of got up on that a little bit, when you had seizures in front of the children. And I know that they knew what epilepsy was because you mentioned that. But how did that make you feel? Did it make you feel like you could stay working there, like, around children, like you were totally cool with it, you were good, no issues?
So, I quit. I quit my job after I had, I think, my 3rd seizure there because I felt so bad that these
Mm.
girls had to see me seize, and now that I'm medicated, I am back, I will say, so there's
You're
that
back at that same job, right?
at that same job, yeah,
Yeah.
because
Wow.
the girls
And
kept
then if you just
asking
feel
for
off,
me.
you sit down, or,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I
Okay.
actually I won't lie, I had a seizure the other day, and
Mm.
I went to my
So
coworker,
sorry,
and I
Alyssa.
was like, "I need to sit down," and she was like, "Don't worry,
Mhm.
honey, I got you," and I sat down,
Yeah.
and they understood, and then after that, I got right back up, and I started working again. I'm very good at understanding when they come on now, but yeah, I quit that job because I needed to come to terms with the fact that this could happen at that workplace,
Yeah.
and I didn't wanna continue working there if I was
Mhm.
having these, grand mals. Because before I was on the medication, I was having the grand mal tonic-clonic
Mhm.
seizures every
Yeah.
month for the most part, and
Wow.
saying that out loud is actually insane,
Mhm.
and I've come to terms with it, but
Mhm.
now being on the medicine, I mean, I don't know if you would consider it a breakthrough seizure because I
Yeah.
have been having them each month, but I'm
Yeah.
now on the medication,
Mhm.
um, I am a little better, I guess I would say, at hiding it from them, because it's not as, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just gonna say tonic-clonic. It's not as, visible, I would say. It's not as
Right.
visible to the girls. So, I not that I wanna, like, shield them from what's happening to
Mhm.
me, but
Mhm. Mhm.
if I can try and just relax for a little bit and have
Mhm.
them not obviously see me go in that again, I'd
Mhm.
rather do that, and my boss knows that I have epilepsy. She's amazing, and I love
Mhm.
her for it. She is so understanding.
It's so awesome.
The reason why I went back there is because I loved those girls. They bring me up so much, and also they were asking for me. They were like,
Mhm.
"Where's Miss Alyssa? Where's Miss Alyssa? We want her back." Like,
Yeah.
I I knew that that is a place where I can be to actually feel confident in myself with these girls, knowing that I do change their lives and it changes my life. But yeah, it has gotten to the point where I was very guilty at one point, and I felt bad because I didn't want them to see what I was going through and then have
Mhm.
them think about that constantly and
Yeah.
have that be a trauma for them, you know?
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what basically
Yeah,
happened.
it definitely could be. If anyone's listening in too, please drop in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. This is a great topic. Big questions here on, if you've ever felt discriminated against, in your workplace, please let us know. We'd love to hear your story. Also, we I would love to know this question for the audience that is epileptic. Did you disclose that you had epilepsy when you went to go get your job, or did you not disclose it? Would love to hear the comments on this.
And
Please
why
drop them
not?
in the chat for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did your coworkers respond? During that. I mean, obviously, you said your boss does well with it, and she's super supportive. So that sounds like that's the right work environment for you, 100%. Working around children, you have this infectious, positive,
I do.
attitude, all about life. It's so beautiful. I think about the people that have been kind of gifted, with this divine neurological, um, you know, it's not, I don't even say it's a disease, but,
I know you
you're on your healing
well,
journey. So,
it's neurological element that we have
yeah,
been
yeah.
dealing
I feel
with.
like, yeah, this illness, but whatever we want to call it, while we're on our healing journeys, because we want to make sure that we're staying positive, and heading in the right direction. What do you like? How do the rest of the people around you at work pretty accepting of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really close with one of my coworkers. Her and I talk all the time. She understands, she knows, and she will be like, "Okay, I got you, honey. Sit down." And then another one of my coworkers, she actually brought me home the other day because she was the one that saw me have it, and she was like, she she honestly made me laugh because she goes, "Girl, I attract epileptics." I started
That's
laughing.
awesome. That's
I
what I mean. They're like you guys are like, divine beings in a sense. I mean,
Yes,
even Hippocrates said that. He's like,
yeah, we
you think
are.
it's
We have
divine because you don't
energy.
understand it,
It's all
but
the energy. But
yeah.
she explained it and she was like, "A lot of people that I've known have epilepsy, and it's because we're attracted to her because she knows how to handle it. Her energy is open and safe." And she told me that her not her coworker, her roommate used to be epileptic, and
Mhm.
she just knows how to handle people with seizures, so I am so safe and comfortable with her, and that's why we both laughed when she said, "I just attract epileptics." Like,
I
it
love it.
wasn't.
I love that you just said that she's open and safe. Would you say
Yes.
that's a good, maybe like model for employers to use when
Yeah.
they're hiring epileptics? Is like, what would be the space that they would want to create? What would be something that they would want to do, to kind of create a great space for epileptics, to a good work environment for them?
I would say if you like, your coworker knows that you have epilepsy, but it's your first time going there, um, your coworker or you could say to your coworker, "Hey, listen, this is something that I'm dealing with." And they can open their arms and be like, "Don't worry, I got you. Whatever you need, tell me exactly what to do." You
Mhm.
know, you can explain to them if they're very open. If also if your boss is just telling all of your coworkers that you have epilepsy, if those coworkers migrate towards you,
Mhm.
if those certain ones migrate towards you, you know that they're open and that they're chill and that they're
Mhm.
accepting and receiving of you. The
Mhm.
ones who don't migrate towards you, and when I say migrate towards you, the ones who kind of just ignore you and go away. Um,
Yep.
you obviously don't want to kind of be on call with them or
Mhm.
working with them. So that's what I would say, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely think there's like a
Mm.
certain environment that would be the best environment for epileptics to work in, and non-stressful
Oh,
for
yes.
sure. Because I feel like my son, I could always tell when there were certain triggers. I think you learn your triggers, right?
It was
That
his.
bring on the seizures, and stress for Judah was a huge one.
Me too.
So as long as he was in an environment that wasn't stressful, and he didn't feel anxious and worried and like all worked up. I could tell like anytime he was working himself up, he would have a seizure every single time.
I
Yeah.
also want the people to know, like, your coworkers should know that, they don't need to treat you any differently.
Mhm.
However, like you just said, if they see you being stressed out, they if you tell them, "Hey, listen, I'm getting stressed out. I need
Mhm.
to kind of either clock out, sit down, whatever," they need to be open and willing to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
100.
think that's a big deal because there was like a lot of people in the groups that were saying they would not disclose it to their boss when they were getting hired for the job, but they would tell their coworkers. So they would tell their
Hmm.
peers and colleagues that they're working with, but not their boss. I thought that was kind of interesting. Or
Yeah.
they might tell them after the fact.
Mhm.
So they would get hired first
And then
and
after
then say afterwards, maybe after they're performing really well and they feel comfortable and confident and safe
mhm,
that they're going to like have that job and they're not going to lose their job because they have epilepsy. Very
yeah,
interesting how people are processing
yeah.
differently and on how to actually kind of navigate this journey. It's very interesting.
I would say it's definitely different for everybody.
Mhm.
Something that works for me isn't going to work for somebody
Mhm.
else. Like, personally, I'm just gonna say, my workplace, we've got a very tight-knit group of people. It's
Mhm.
not a huge team of people working together.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
me and my coworkers are very closely knit, very close. Um, but I can see why somebody who is getting a job and say, like, I'm just gonna throw out a random, like, word out like a random workplace out there. If they're getting a job
Mhm.
at, uh, like like a very, very high-end workplace that they're on the computers all the time and
Mhm.
they could experience high stress levels, I could understand why somebody would wanna not disclose that information very quickly,
Mhm.
because if they like, God forbid, they do go into a seizure, the boss might kind of see them as less than and kind of maybe micromanage them or, pass over them to give them certain roles, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So,
Mhm.
I can
Yeah.
completely understand that, and
Mhm.
that moving, like, from what we were saying in the beginning, in the workplace, like, it doesn't limit your worth,
Mhm.
but in the workplace, actually, like, working at that type of environment,
Mhm.
I can see why they would want to not say anything. So
Right.
um, it really does, I guess sh hold on, my brain kind of that's
It's
what
okay.
happens when you have epilepsy. Your brain, you go talking and then you completely miss your
Yeah, it can be like an absent-minded, right?
yes,
Like,
very,
yeah. Mhm. Go
but
to another place, yeah.
what I
It's
was
very,
trying
very it's very, very common. I think what you're trying to say is has
to
to do with around employers, how they act in the workplace and what they can do basically
yeah,
to help
they
create
don't want to
space
be.
that's safe for everybody. Yeah.
Exactly, and I can definitely see that if somebody wants that incredibly high-end job,
Mhm.
like, they wouldn't want to tell their employer because they could be seen as less than because they have epilepsy, but I don't
Es
want them to think that.
Yeah, I think also too, especially if it's like, their medication.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
on the right medication to where they don't have seizures, meaning breakthrough seizures. Judah was having breakthrough seizures over and over and over again.
What
So
was he on again? Depakote?
he was on Depakote. He started on Keppra, but then got switched to Depakote.
Mm,
And even though he was on 3,000 milligrams of Depakote a day, he was still having breakthrough seizures. So what was the point? I mean, afterwards, I was kind of like, what is the point? I ended up losing him to SUDEP anyway. So it kind of felt sort of disappointing. I think about that a lot. Like, should I have even had him on that much medication? Because what would it have mattered? He was still having breakthrough seizures.
yeah,
Um, and I wonder if that played a big part in the quality of his life, especially the last year of his life with
yeah,
the lung abscess and exasperating, so much from the grand malls. And I don't know. I just, that's kind of where I go a lot, in my mind naturally. So, but I think with regard to the workplace, that there definitely is a lot of like similarities on how they even epileptics deal in everyday life. The discrimination, the
yeah,
wanting to hide the fact that you have epilepsy on the job because you don't want them to, your employer, to pass you over for a promotion
yeah.
or maybe a certain role, as you're saying, or
Leadership.
a certain job that you would qualify for. So I think also too, one of the things that Judah wanted to do was he wanted to go in the military. Well, that was out, because of his epilepsy. So, I think there were some jobs that you cannot do
Yeah.
as an epileptic. And I think that would be hard too if somebody had a dream job. Like, did you ever have a dream job that, you couldn't do because of your epilepsy?
Good question. I always wanted to be so I would say, I've always wanted to be a nurse and work in the NICU
Mm,
with the babies, but I definitely like getting emotional. A NICU nurse for
yeah.
the neonatal, I think that's
Yeah.
what's called,
Hmm.
neonatal NICU nurse.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that because I have epilepsy, and
Hmm.
it's upsetting because that's something that I've dreamed of. I've always wanted to help the
Hmm.
babies. I'm getting emotional now. But I know that I can do other things like be an art therapist for those who have
Yes.
epilepsy or
Yeah.
any other chronic illness, and an artist. And I consider myself a micro influencer on TikTok.
Mhm.
So I
You
do
are.
that. Howard Flower, if you guys want to follow me.
Yes, yes. Empowered Flower, Faces of Epilepsy on TikTok. She's so beautiful. Great
Yes.
stories.
Faces of Epilepsy on TikTok, the Empowered Flower. And I would say, yeah, that there are a couple of dream jobs that people with epilepsy aren't capable of doing because of
Mhm.
that or able to do. Um, but don't let that stop you from considering other types of jobs and
Yeah.
from opening your heart and mind to something that you never even knew
Mhm.
that was possible. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you have a dream job, drop it in the chat. We want to hear about it. And we want to
Okay.
hear if you have a dream job that you are actually doing your dream job
Yeah, we wanna hear
and you're
it.
an epileptic. I
Let's
want to
talk
hear
about
about it because I was thinking, I'm sure Prince was doing his dream job. He was an epileptic. I know
True.
Susan Boyle is. She's an epileptic. I'm
So
sure
true.
Catherine Zeta Jones and Jack Black and, I'm sure all these athletes, Tiki Barber and different ones, that have epilepsy, I'm sure, are doing their dream jobs because they're having a lot of success at them. So,
Yeah.
and usually you don't have a lot of success at something unless it's your dream to do it. Okay. It's your purpose and it's your calling. So I pray, Alyssa, that you get in the right space. It sounds like this job that you have right now is good
Oh,
and you're
absolutely.
working with children and they love you and your employer loves you
Mhm.
and your
I'm so
coworkers love you.
grateful. I
So
really
as
do.
far as I'm concerned, that's sort of a dream job
Oh,
because you're in the right space.
100%. It is a dream job of mine.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're going to be doing more art and all these other things. So thank you so much. This has been an amazing, amazing episode. Do you have any last thoughts about anything for employees to employers around epilepsy in the workplace?
Don't be afraid to, I guess, don't conceal your epilepsy. Don't be afraid to talk about it. I
Mhm.
understand that it can be scary, but I feel like it can be a lot more safer for it
Mhm.
is probably a lot more safer for you to tell at least one person that you have epilepsy if you feel safe with that one person, because they are going to be your safe space to go to
Mhm.
if something does happen. So that is what I would say. At least tell one person, and you are able to feel safe going to that job every day. So you don't have that in the back of your mind. Oh my gosh, God forbid I have a seizure and nobody knows what to do. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that.
Definitely agree with
Mhm.
that. Oh my gosh, what a great show today. Well, we love you so much. We love our audience so much. Please make sure to drop in the chat. Visit us on all of our social media handles: TikTok, Instagram, Faces of Epilepsy. Facesofepilepsy.com is our website. Facesofepilepsy.me is our community on Facebook. And anything else, Alyssa? I think we're good.
Yeah,
Great show.
I think we are. This was such an up I love this. This show was so beautiful, and I love talking about, like, being in the workplace and just like, connecting with all of you guys. It's been incredible. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, have a great week. Bye.
Bye.